Hello everyone, this is John Hashmat and welcome to Physics Simply. In this video I will be solving the paper 2 exam for May-June 2017 variant 1. So let's get started. Question 1 says, what is the most accurate and precise method to measure the thickness of a coin? Use a micrometer screw gauge, that would work. Use a ruler and look at the scale perpendicularly, that would work also, but micrometer is the most precise. Use a top pen balance, that measures mass. Use a displacement method with water, that measures volume, so it's not D, it is A. Question 2 says, on Earth a ball is dropped and falls 2 meters in a vacuum. The acceleration of the ball at 1 meter is 10 meters per second squared. What is the acceleration of the ball at 0.5 meters? That would be the same because it is falling under gravity and gravity acceleration is constant. So we choose the same number here, so the answer is B. Question 3 says a skydiver reaches terminal velocity, then he opens his parachute. What happens to the skydiver as the parachute opens? There is a decrease in the weight. No. There is an acceleration upwards. Yes, because there is a resultant force upwards. The air resistance upwards now is greater than the weight downwards. So this is correct. There is an increase in speed. No, it should decrease. There is a movement upwards. No, it is still falling. The person is still falling because he was already falling, so they will keep moving in the same direction but with decreasing speed. So the answer here is B. Question 4 says a piece of steel is taken from the Earth to the Moon for an experiment. The gravitation field strength on the Moon is smaller than on the Earth. Which statement about the piece of steel is correct? It has less mass on the Moon. More mass on the Moon? No. Weight is less on the Moon than on Earth? Yes, because weight is proportional to the gravity field strength. So when the field strength decreases, the weight also decreases. So the choice is C. Question 5 says a measuring cylinder containing only water is placed on an electric balance. A small irregularly shaped stone is now completely immersed in the water. The diagrams show the equipment before and after the stone is immersed. So we have the readings of the measuring cylinder and the balance. What is the density of the material of the stone? So for the stone, we need the change in mass. So we calculate the mass added by the stone, and the change in volume. So we calculate the volume added by the stone. So we divide mass by volume, 217.5 minus 105 over the change in volume. That would be 65 minus 40. So the answer here is 4.5 grams per centimeter cubed. So we choose C. Question 6 says a boat is traveling at steady speed in a straight line across the surface of a lake. Which statement about the boat is correct? The resultant force on the boat is in the direction of motion, opposite direction of motion. No, there is no resultant force when moving with steady speed. The resultant force on the boat is vertically downwards. No. 0, yes. So we choose D. Question 7 says a ball of weight 1.2 newtons drops through the air at terminal velocity. A sudden gust of wind exerts a horizontal force of 0.5 newtons on the ball from the left. Which diagram shows the resultant force on the ball while the wind is blowing? So we have a force to the right, and terminal velocity means that the weight is balanced by air resistance. So the weight is vertically downwards. That is correct except for D. And there is an air resistance balancing the weight only in C. So these forces are balanced, and then there is a gust of wind to the right. This is the correct answer. Question 8 says the diagram shows a uniform bridge 4.0 meters long and weighing 10,000 newtons. The bridge is pivoted at one end. A force at the other end gradually increases until the bridge begins to lift. What is the lifting force as the bridge starts to move upwards? First, we said a uniform bridge, which means the weight is in the middle and the weight is 10,000 newtons. So we have a force downwards 10,000 newtons acting at a distance from the pivot, half the length of the bridge. So this is 2 meters. And then we can use the principle of moments. We say that the clockwise moments are equal to the anti-clockwise moments. So the clockwise moment here is caused by the 10,000 newtons at a distance of 2. And the anti-clockwise moment is the required force multiplied by the distance from the pivot 4 meters. This is force F. Then we divide by 4 on the left side. So this gives us an answer of 5,000 newtons. So we choose B. Question 9 says a bullet of mass 0.10 kilograms travels horizontally at a speed of 600 meters per second. It strikes a stationary wooden block of mass 1.90 kilograms resting on a frictionless surface. The bullet stays in the block. What is the speed of the bullet and the block immediately after the impact? So this is a two object collision, so we can use the conservation of momentum. m1u1 plus m2u2 is equal to m1v1 plus m2v2. And then we can use the same v for the objects moving together. So m1 plus m2 all together moving with an unknown velocity v. And the initial momentum of the block, the stationary block, was 0. So substituting, we have m1u1 0.10 multiplied by 600 is equal to the total mass 0.10 plus 1.90 multiplied by the velocity. Then we divide by this bracket on the left side. So this gives an answer of 30 meters per second. So the answer is A. Question 10 says a box of mass m slides down a slope of length L and vertical height d against a frictional force F. As the box slides down the slope, it loses gravitational potential energy and it does work against the friction. Which row gives the loss in gravitational potential energy and the work done against friction? So gravitational potential energy is mgh, but h here is called d, so it would be mgd. And the work done against the force is equal to the force multiplied by the parallel distance. So if this is the force, this is the parallel distance to the force, so it is FL, so we choose A. Question 11 says the diagram represents the energy transfers for a device. We have input energy, useful output energy, and wasted energy. This is called the Sankey diagram. The device is 50% efficient, so the input is 100, the useful output is 50%, that would be 50, and the wasted is equal to 50%. So these are the total numbers, input, wasted, and output. Which equation is correct? Input energy is equal to the useful output energy divided by 2. No, the useful output is equal to the input divided by 2. 100 divided by 2 would give us 50. So the first sentence is wrong. The useful output energy is equal to the wasted output energy divided by 2. No, they are the same number. Wasted output energy is equal to the useful output energy. Yes, because they are both 50%. So the answer is C. Question 12 says a student carries out some simple exercises in which exercise is the most work done. So work is equal to the force multiplied by the parallel distance. Here we have lifting 1 kilogram through a distance of 1 meter. So the force must be equal to the weight, which is equal to 1 times 9.8. And then we multiply by the distance 1, that would give us 9.8 joules. For B, we have the force 4 Newton and the distance is 1 meter. The mass is unrelated to the question, so 4 times 1, that would give us 4 joules. For C, we have the weight is equal to 2 times 9.8, and then we move the distance of 2 meters. This looks like a large number, 19.6 joules. And the final one, we have a force of 2 newtons and distance 2, so the force 2 multiplied by the distance is equal to 4 joules. So the greatest number here is C. Question 13 says 4 different liquids are poured into 4 containers. The diagrams show the depth and the density of liquid in each container. In which container is the pressure on its base the greatest? So pressure is equal to rho GH, and the same G is applied to all of them. So we are looking for the multiplication of the density and depth to get the greatest number, to get the greatest pressure. So we can multiply these numbers together. The first one will give us 31, and the second one will give us 1.2 times 20, that is 24. 1.3 times 30, that gives us an answer of 39. 0.8 times 40, that gives us an answer of 32. So the greatest number here is 39, so we choose C. Question 14 says Brownian motion is observed when using a microscope to look at smoke particles in air. What causes the smoke particles to move at random? Smoke particles are hit by air molecules. Yes. Smoke particles are moved by convection currents. No. Have different weights. No. Hit the walls of the container. That causes a pressure on the container, not related to Brownian motion. So the answer is A. Question 15 says gas molecules striking a container wall cause a pressure to be exerted on the wall. Which statement explains this? When a molecule rebounds, there must be a change in its energy. No. Change in momentum, yes, because the direction changes. Change in speed, no, because they do not lose kinetic energy. Must be a change in its temperature, no, because they move with the same speed, so the temperature is constant. So the answer is B. Question 16 says equal masses of 2 different liquids are put into identical beakers. Liquid 1 is heated for 100 seconds and liquid 2 is heated for 200 seconds by heaters of the same power. So power is equal to energy over time, or energy is equal to power multiplied by time. So the energy here is actually half the energy on the right side. So energy in liquid 1 is half the energy in liquid 2. Each liquid has the same rise in temperature. So with different energies, we reach the same temperature, which means we have different specific heat capacities. Which statement is correct? Each beaker of liquid has the same thermal capacity. No, because different energies but same change in temperature. Each beaker of liquid receives the same energy. No, we said that one receives less. One receives more energy than liquid. No, it receives less. The thermal capacity of one is less than thermal capacity of two. Yes, because it needs less energy to heat. So the answer here is D. Question 17 is about latent heat capacity, so you can skip this question for the new syllabus. It says water of mass 100 grams at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius is converted into steam at 100 degrees Celsius. The specific latent heat of vaporization of water is 2300 joules per gram. How much thermal energy is absorbed by the water? So the mass is in grams and the unit here is per gram, so we do not convert the mass. And the energy is equal to ml, so we multiply the mass 100 by the latent heat capacity 2300. That will give us an answer of 230,000 joules, so we choose C. Question 18 says a copper bar and a wooden bar are joined. A piece of paper is wrapped tightly around the joint. The bar is heated strongly at the center for a short time and the paper goes brown on one side only. Which side goes brown and what does this show about the wood and copper? So wood is an insulator and copper is a conductor. So it will dissipate heat quickly. So the heat received by the copper side will dissipate to the right, but the heat received by the wood will not dissipate quickly. So it will keep building up heat in this section and that will burn the paper on the side of the wood. So these are the choices and the common one here is D. Question 19 says different waves hit barriers with different size gaps. The waves will diffract. In which diagram does the greatest spreading occur? So the gap should be equal to the size of the wavelength, not larger. In A, we have the gap larger than A, twice the distance. In B, we have the wavelength and gap at the same size. So this would be correct. C, we have 3 and 1, again barrier gap greater than the wavelength. 3 and 2 for D, also greater, so the correct choice is B. Question 20 says a converging lens is used as a magnifying glass to view an object. Which statement is correct? The image is inverted. No, when using a lens as a magnifying glass, it is always upright. The image is nearer to the lens than the object. No, it is further, or the object is nearer. The image is the same size. No, because it says a magnifying glass. And the image is virtual, always virtual when we use the converging lens as a magnifying glass. So the answer is D. Question 21 says which diagram shows what happens when a ray of white light passes through a prism? So there is dispersion, but twice, once inside the prism and once going outside the prism. So A is rejected. As for B and C and D, we have the bending is towards the normal going inside the block. So B is rejected because they are moving away from the normal. For C and D, this is the correct way of the bending towards the normal, yes, but moving away from the normal when moving outside the prism. So D is the correct answer, moving away from the normal for all the beams. So we choose D. Question 22 says light travels in a vacuum and then enters a glass block. The speed of the light in the glass block is 2 times 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. Which statement about the speed of light is correct? The speed in a vacuum is 1.5 times the speed in glass. The speed in vacuum should be memorized, which is 3 times 10 to the power of 8. If we divide that by 2 times 10 to the power of 8, we actually do get 1.5. So the first sentence is correct. They do not move with the same speed in vacuum and glass, and in glass it is lower than in vacuum, so it is not 1.5 times, and it is not 1 times 10 to the power of 8 times because they are both times 10 to the power of 8, so this would cancel if we have a ratio. So the answer here is A. Question 23 says a fire alarm is not loud enough and the pitch is too low. An engineer adjusts the alarm so that it produces a louder note of a higher pitch. So louder, the amplitude would be larger, and higher pitch, the frequency would be greater also. So the common choice here is A. Question 24 says, in a child's toy, metal fish are lifted out of a toy pond using a metal rod. The fish are magnetically attracted to the end of the rod. There is no magnetic force between the fish themselves. What are possible materials for which the fish and the rod are made? They are both magnetic materials, so no aluminum. Soft iron and steel are okay. Since the fish do not attract each other, they are not permanent magnets. They are soft magnetic materials, that would be a soft iron. And for the rod, it must be a magnet to attract the fish, so it must be made of steel, which is a hard magnetic material, so we choose D. Question 25 says, what is the most effective method to demagnetize a bar magnet? Placing the magnet in a solenoid carrying large alternating current and gradually decreasing the current, that would work. Placing the magnet in a solenoid carrying a large direct current, no. Placing the magnet in a solenoid that produces a magnetic field in the opposite direction, that would just change the polarity of the magnet, it will not demagnetize it. Placing the magnet next to an identical bar magnet with its poles in the opposite direction, no, they would just repel, so the answer here is A. Question 26 says, a magnet near a coil of wire is attracted to the coil only when there is a current in the coil. Which statement explains this force of attraction? The coil of wire has its own gravitational field. No, we need a magnetic field. The coil of wire is made of soft iron. No, it's made of copper. The current in the coil of wire creates a magnetic field. Yes, the interaction between the two magnetic fields from the magnet and the coil will cause an attraction. The current in the coil of wire induces a charge on the magnet. No, so the answer is C. Question 27 says, a student rubs a plastic rod with a cloth. The rod becomes positively charged. What has happened to the rod? Protons do not move between objects, so we either gain electrons or lose electrons. To become positive, we must lose electrons, so we choose C. Question 28 says, which quantity is measured in coulombs? That would be charge, so the answer is A. Question 29 says, a cylinder of conducting putty has a length L and diameter D and resistance R. The putty is now molded into a cylinder of diameter 2D, so the diameter is multiplied by 2, and has the same volume. So if the area is enlarged, the length must be shortened for the twice the diameter, and the area is calculated as pi r squared or pi d squared over 2. So if the diameter is multiplied by 2, the area would be multiplied by 2 squared, which is 4. And the resistance is inversely proportional to the area, so the resistance is divided by 4. And since volume is equal to area times length, if area multiplied by 4, the length must be divided by 4. And the resistance and length are directly proportional, so the resistance is again divided by 4. So we divided by 4 twice, so we divide by 16. By which factor does the resistance of the putty cylinder decrease? That would be 16, so we choose D. Question 30 says, the average current during a lightning strike between a cloud and the ground is 1.5 times 10 to the power of 4 amperes. The lightning releases 3.0 times 10 to the power of 8 joules of energy and lasts for 2 times 10 to the power of negative 4 seconds. What is the average electromotive force between the cloud and the ground? So the energy is equal to VIT. So V is equal to the energy divided by the current and time. We have 3 times 10 to the power of 8 over 1.5 times 10 to the power of 4 multiplied by 2 times 10 to the power of negative 4. That would give us an answer of 1 times 10 to the power of 8 volts. So we choose C. Question 31 says, a student connects a variable potential divider circuit. What happens to the reading on the voltmeter as a sliding terminal T is moved from R to S? If it is at R, then the voltmeter is connected with nothing, so it starts from 0. And then as we move to S, the length increases and the resistance connected increases, so the voltage across it increases until we reach S. That will take the full voltage of the battery, which is 12 volts, so increases from 0 to 12, and the answer is B. Question 32 says, the circuit diagram shows a circuit with an AC supply, a diode, and a resistor. Which diagram shows how the current I in the resistor varies with time? So if we have one diode here, that causes a half-wave rectification, so we choose B. So we have the current flowing in one direction, then not flowing when the current is reversed, and then flowing the same direction, then not flowing, and so on. Question 33 says, a light-dependent resistor LDR and the resistor R are connected in a series circuit. Light falls on the LDR. The brightness of the light falling on the LDR decreases. What happens to the resistance of the LDR and what happens to the reading on the ammeter, which is showing the current. So when light decreases, the resistance of the LDR increases. And since this is a series connection, when resistance increases, the current actually decreases. So we choose C. Question 34 is about logic gates, so you can skip this question for the new syllabus. It says the diagram shows a logic gate which input combinations at P and Q gives an output of 0 at R. So this is an AND gate. It is the opposite of an AND gate. For an AND gate, 0 and 0 would give us 0, 0, 1 would give 0, 1 and 0 would give 0, 1 and 1 gives 1. So only the reverse of 1 gives 0. So this is the choice we have. So we choose D. Question 35 says a simple DC electric motor is fitted with a coil that rotates in a magnetic field. A commutator connects the power supply to the coil. What is the purpose of the commutator? It reverses the current in the coil every half cycle. So it converts AC to DC? No. It prevents the current from becoming too great? No. That would be a fuse or a circuit breaker. It reverses the direction of the current in the coil every 180 degrees. That would be half a cycle. So this is the correct choice. So we choose C. Question 36 says, what is the purpose of a relay? To change a large voltage into small voltage? No, it does not change anything. It connects two circuits, one with a small current and one with a large current, but it uses the small current to control the large current, not the other way around. So the answer is D. Question 37 says, which row gives the relative charge of an electron, a neutron, and a proton? So an electron is -1, neutron is 0, and a proton is +1. So the common one here is B. Question 38 says a nuclide of element X undergoes beta decay. Which statement is correct? The nucleon number increases by 1. No, the nucleon number does not change. The nucleon number stays the same. Yes. The product is another nuclide of an isotope of X. An isotope would have the same proton number, but beta decay changes the proton number. The proton number decreases by 1. No, it increases by 1. So we choose B. Question 39 says a sample of radioactive isotope is decaying. The nuclei of which atoms will decay first? It is impossible to know, not the center and not the surface, we do not know. Because radioactive decay is random? Yes. Because the age of the material is unknown? No, unrelated. So we choose A. Question 40 says a detector of ionizing radiation gives a background reading of 20 counts per minute. A radioactive isotope with a half-life 2 days is brought near to the detector. The reading on the detector increases to 100 counts per minute. How long does it take for the reading on the detector to decrease to 40 counts per minute? So if we have the initial and final count rates and also we have background, first we need to subtract the background. 100 minus 20, that gives us 80, and 40 minus 20, that gives us 20. And then we divide by 2 until we reach the final value. So from 80 divided by 2, that gives us 40, divided by 2 again, that gives us 20. So we passed by 2 half-lives. Each of them is 2 days long. So 2 days plus 2 days, that gives us a total time of 4 days. So the answer is B. So this was the end of the exam. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Keep practicing and I will see you in another video.